all the way to Janet Jackson and all that other shit.
Oh, God.
The last time I seen you was at Mr. Chow, right? Just before the COVID?
Yeah, it was your birthday.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. That was a while ago. Yeah, it was your last birthday.
Nah, I seen you. I seen you after that. Let me ask you a question. You go way back. The first thing I remember about Jermaine Dupri is you dancing back in the day. Young kid. I used to watch Video Music Box, and I used to see you on there dancing. Tell me how that came about. How a kid from the ATL, who you was dancing for? Houdini?
Nah, I actually was dancing for myself. The story is that, you know, the guy who created the Fresh Fest, the New York City Fresh Fest, the promoter who created it, his name is Ricky Walker. He's from Atlanta. So the show actually originated here in Atlanta. The first show, my dad basically was like the stage manager or like production manager of the tour. And they needed to waste a little time in the beginning of the show. So everybody get a little opening act here and there. Like they got no name, none of that. So, they threw my name in the hat and it's like, yeah, just go out there and dance, go ahead, do whatever you got. Dancers back in that day, you was just like the little clown. You just go out there and dance and, entertain people while before the big guys come on stage. So that's basically how it happened. I was 12 years old and I basically started dancing on the Fresh Fest. And I did such a good job here in Atlanta that Ricky Walker was like, Jermaine, let's take you on tour. And I was like, tour? And he's like, yeah, we're going to 60 cities, but we're going to take you on tour. And I was 12 years old. I was like, I'm going, you know what I mean?
Who else was on that tour?
It was Run DMC, Curtis Blow, the Fat Boys, Grandmaster Flash, the New York City Breakers, Nucleus, and it kept evolving. Like it went from 84 to 85 and 86. So I think in like 84, 85, then they had the Breaking Crew. They had Shabba-Doo and Turbo on the tour. It just kept evolving, you know what I'm saying? And it just kept getting bigger and bigger.
Now, how crazy is that you start from the golden age of hip-hop? Would you say that was the golden age of hip-hop?
100%. That was the first hip-hop tour in history. That was the first hip. And Houdini was like, they was like the most commercial group.
This is the Fresh Festival Part 2, 1985. We hope you enjoyed the show. We did the best we could. This is the rapper Jalil. This is the great Grandmaster. This is my brother Dynasty. This is Jermaine.
On the tour, besides, like Run DMC was hard, but Houdini was like the closest thing to like getting rap records on the radio like every day, the way we hear rap music now. So it was like it was the birth of so much.
You talked about your father for a second. What was his role in the music industry while you was growing up? Because I know you was born into the music industry.
That's an interesting myth, kind of, but it's basically my dad was just like a road manager. That's what he was. He was a road manager or production manager, kind of, sort of, right?
So he wasn't president of Sony and all that?
Nah. That's what I'm saying. That all of that. You know why that story never really gets told the way it's supposed to is because
they ain't gonna talk about it on the Fat Joe show.
Yeah, okay, well here we go. We get ready to talk. We gonna let Joprah have it the way it's supposed to be told.
We gonna go all the way to Janet Jackson and all that other shit.
God.
Hey yo, Jermaine, let's go to the birth. Let's go.
All right, so listen. So really, Crisscross put me and my dad on. Me finding Crisscross, basically, and having my dad manage Crisscross, right? Because I found Crisscross, and then I took them to my dad, and I said, I want you to manage these guys. I'm going to make the music. I want you to manage them. And that was our team. That's how me and my dad basically was running things. It was like, I'll bring an artist to him and tell him that I want him to manage him. So he started a management company that was managing Crisscross. Then they started managing Arrested Development, and then they managed The Brat, and then they managed, every one of my other artists that I put out, Jagged Edge, Bow Wow, etc. So, the success of Crisscross gave me my label at Columbia, right? So that's why I say Crisscross basically put us all on, because the success of Crisscross gave me So So Def at Columbia, and the guys at Columbia.
Similar to like Puffy with Craig Mack. Craig Mack opened that door first, and then Biggie blew the shit down.
Yeah, but this was different because the Criss Cross wasn't on So Def. They was on They was on Rough House, so they was on the same label as the Fugees, right? So what happened was that, like I said, the Success, the guys at Sony was watching the Success, and they saying, "Oh, this young guy, he making the music. We should give him a label." But who is the manager of these kids? Who's keeping these kids straight? And then they looked at my dad, and they was like, "Oh, he'll be perfect to run black music at Sony Records." So they gave my dad the job of president of black music, and they gave me a label. So Criss Cross put us both in that position.
So once you kicked the door open, your father got the position, and then you kept exploding because we just getting started here, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But also your dad, after Criss Cross popped off Arrested Development, they gave him that job. I was always told he was the president, and you learned the ropes through him, and you watched that. That was incorrect.
We all basically, this all kind of basically all happened simultaneously off of Criss Cross. Boom, I went my way and started So Def. They gave him a job at Sony, and he basically moved to New York and started doing that.
I remember pulling up to Atlanta every time I pulled up. And shout out to the ATL. I love the ATL. I don't know how Fat Joe never lived in the ATL. Every time I go to the ATL, I just love it. I love everything about the ATL. But I remember always going to ATL and seeing "Welcome to Atlanta," So Def, this big ass billboard. And what was that? What you had the hookup with this billboard or something? Or how much?
I paid $10,000 a month for 10 years straight.
That's big shit. That's big. That's big.
No, believe me, 100%.
So I wasn't hallucinating, because I'm like, damn. Every time I went to ATL, I would see this billboard.
Yeah.
Then it was followed up by, I wouldn't advise them, but the "Welcome to Atlanta" BMF. The world is, like, I don't know what they was thinking of. Meech
was on it. You know what I mean? At the time when I did the billboard, I didn't know the impact of the billboard. I didn't know that it was doing that to what people say they every time they come to the city. I was just trying to like put my stamp in my, in my city basically, because, like you guys had New York, and it was the West Coast was the West Coast, and we wasn't really getting that much that we ain't had that stamp in the city. So I was just really trying to do everything I could to make sure people understood that I represent Atlanta.
Let me tell you something. We definitely understood that, but you alluded to something back in the day, right? Because as far as I know, New York always embraced you and always showed you love. T.I. was on here, which might be my illest interview on here, talking about New York never had love for the South, and we wouldn't play the South music, and it was harder being from the South. Do you agree with his theory, or was it really like that back in the day?
100%. And he didn't even feel what I felt. You know what I mean? He ain't even get the best of what I felt. T.I. came so far after me that he didn't even really see it the way I seen it.
Wyclef Zone.
Yo.
Stop by say.
Nabule.
Yo, let me tell you something. I live in Miami. The guy that works out here, man, in my complex, in my island, he Haitian. He loves you so much, Wyclef, man. I've been talking to this man for 15 years about Wyclef Joe every single day.
Yo, what's his name?
Man, I don't know his name. I'm gonna find out his name for you, man.
You gotta find out his name. Hold up, I'm gonna grab one of them guitars for you. Uh-oh. It's on. The Big Show. It is on. Wyclef is grabbing the guitar. This shit crazy, man. This the Big Show, man. Wyclef gonna grab the guitar. Fat Joe, yeah,
Terror Squad. Yeah, Wyclef Jean. Yeah, what you know about Terror Squad? Yeah, what you know about Wyclef Jean? Yeah. If I was president, I get elected on Friday, assassinated on Saturday, buried on Sunday, then on Monday everybody goes back to work, like nothing happened, why? It's just an ordinary day. But I could be the president and you could be the president and she could be the president. If I was president, if I was the president. Hey Joe, a man say he wanna build a wall, have Mexico pay for it all. I called up my Mexican friend. They said, Wyclef, we ain't gonna pay for shit. There's a riot every week, and the people on the street, everyone is living on the edge. You could be the next AI. Donald Trump said he ready for the competition. Joe Biden said he's ready for the competition. I was smoking weed with Bernie Sanders. He said they won the competition, Vote for Joe, Vote for Joe,
Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. Yo, Wyclef, I always tell this story, right? We've been cool since since I had Flojo and the Fugees just started. I remember seeing y'all at all the shows and y'all wasn't blown up yet. And then when them videos came out and y'all just blew up, and I was like, yo, you believe I used to do shows with these guys? Like, cause how much records the first Fuji album sold?
Well, the first album was called Blunted on Reality. It sold copper. The second album did like 30 million. This was started, still going.
And then your solo album did how many million?
My solo album did 7 million. So if you come at the crib, damn, let me see if I can flip. Let me walk around. Let's see. So let's see. We here, right? We're just going through. Let's go. Let's see. All right. All right. So you see this one right here?
What's that right there? Tell us, because we see
okay, that's Hips Don't Lie. That's Shakira, Hips Don't Lie. The biggest of all time. So let's start with that. That's the biggest selling single of all time.
Shakira, Hips Don't Lie.
So that's Wyclef worldwide albums, just Wyclef alone. 10 million records, just Wyclef alone. We ain't even get to the Wyclef work. So we gonna go. Okay, when I look on this wall right here, I got Destiny Child. Destiny Child, the first record, you say, no. When it's yeah. So then we go over here. I got the Great Whitney right here.
And what was Wyclef, you being out of Jersey, working with the Queen of all queens, and she was from Jersey.
Yo, it was amazing because for me, I got a chance to be with Whitney, Bobby, and people was like, yo, Whitney's going through an emotional time. It's going to be hard to work with her in the studio. And for me, like going in, what was crazy was I didn't only record Whitney. I recorded her daughter and I recorded Bobby. But I never told Clive I recorded Bobby. So that's Bobby Brown on that. My love is your love, and your love is my love. So for me, her daughter was real little, right? And she was on the side when I was recording her mom. And her daughter said, sing, mommy. And I was like, I turned around and I grabbed the mic and I said, do what you just did again. She said, sing, mommy. So when Whitney got out of the booth, she didn't even know I recorded her daughter. So the first time she heard it and heard sing mommy, she flipped out. So for me, I saw that love and that connection with the family from the gate,
Man, let me tell you something, Wyclef. I know for a fact
that you were the main person responsible for getting the record cleared for Khaled for Carlos Santana.
Man, I'm speechless because when Khaled hit me up, you know Khaled, like we go back to Shatters.
Yeah, you know Khaled for 20-something years.
Yeah, Shatters, top Shatters. We literally, me and Khaled used to go dub for dub. So Khaled is the only one that knows like I'm a real soundboy, you know what I mean? I'm what you call like the closet DJ, you know what I mean? So we go like way, way back. And so when I did that record, Maria Maria, when you hear the record, Spanish Harlem, you know, and we was taught, that's an immigrant story. It was after a movie I saw, which was called West Side Story. So when I got that call from Khaled, my brother, I was excited because one, you gotta understand, my daughter's 15 years old. You know how a dad feels when her daughter's in school and then that Khaled record come on and she go, that's my daddy's record. You know what I'm saying? So for me, and Carlos Santana is like my godfather, real godfather. So when I gave him a call, he was excited, he was honored. So for me, this is what I wanted to do. Because we talk about like my excitement with the Fugees when you go back, I never really wanted to be a superstar. Because back then the producers was not the superstars. The superstars was the artists. So if anybody ever asked me, who's the superstar of the Fugees? Our superstars of the Fugees is Lauryn Hill. Because if I want to be the young Quincy Jones and I can't create a super group, that would never happen. So when we look in today and I'm watching what Khaled's doing with production and everything, I'm honored. Because for me, this means like it continues and it continues, you know?
You know what I mean? It was too early because the New York street sound was so dominant. It was too early for them to.
It just was a time when rap coming from the South wasn't even thought of. Like, you know, it wasn't even to be, you know. And by the way, this continued after T.I. came out. What T.I. was talking about, this continued when I put out the Franchise Boys and I put out Bone Crusher at the same time, right? I put out these guys at the same time, and this is when New York started embracing the South. These records, these two records, Oh, I Think They Like Me and Never Scared. These records was huge in New York, right? And I'll never forget this. This is when I was the president of Virgin Records, and I was going hard with the street teams in New York. I was living in New York. I was going stupid. And one of the street teams came back one day and they was like, yo, we went to a club and we gave the DJ a record. And the DJ was like, yo, if you bring me one more goddamn South record, I'm going to break this motherfucker. And it felt like, that's when I felt oh shit, this is still going on. Like, niggas really don't want to know.
What I feel like right now? I feel like one of the white guys that don't understand what's happening to black people getting beat up by the cops and all that till they see it on video. Because I'm so naive. You know, I'm probably the first to work with South artists and do Make It Rain and move down to Miami. So I never, and I'm not bullshitting, I never looked at the South any different, you know, if you had dope music, I'm a music man. So I embrace music from anywhere. So when T.I. was saying that to me, I was like, yo, this dude bugging. Like, you know what? I guess it was harder. Because when I watch you come up, like in Biggie videos, the Brad is in the video, Biggie worked with you, Jay worked with you. So I would have never guessed from the outside looking in that you had any type of turbulence.
Well, you know, that's not to cut you off, but yeah, that's me. Like I was really going against that grain because I knew it was there, right? So even when I did Welcome to Atlanta remix, I was like, Puff gotta be on this record because niggas think me and him don't fuck with each other, right? And I was like, he gotta be on this song, right? And even me putting him on the song, people still tried to make it like Atlanta against New York, Atlanta against New York, and it wasn't never like that. But that's what people, you know, that's where it was basically going. It's been like that.
You know, you've been out there so long. Do you have any memories or any stories of Pac in the ATL? Because Pac was out there in the ATL. Now, I met Tupac in the ATL.
Yeah, see, I met Tupac on tour at the Fresh Fest before he was even Tupac that y'all know about.
Oh, so you met him since day one when he was with Humpty Hump and those guys.
Yeah. I met him at Digital Underground.
Okay. And what story you might have with Pac that we ain't never hear of out there in the ATL?
I mean, the stories that happened in ATL is pretty much all the stories that, you know, that everybody heard. When he came to Atlanta, it was just wild, wild west. You know, Atlanta used to be a city that was like, I don't know if you ever watched the Snorkels. This is like some cartoon shit, but you ever watch the Snorkels? I know you got a daughter. Y'all. Okay, the Snorkels. Okay, the Snorkels. They had this underground world. There's like these little cartoon guys that had this underground world. And to me, when 112 was open, and right before the bubble of BMF and all of this, Atlanta was a city that was damn near like nobody really understood what was happening in this city. It was the only city on the East Coast that really, really operated almost like Vegas. So when artists came out here, it was just a wild, wild west. And Tupac, he was one of these guys that was into everything when he came to the city.
Yeah, man. You know, rest in peace, Tupac. Biggie, I remember seeing you with Biggie. The Brat in the videos. The Brat first soloist female to go platinum, huh?
Yeah.
What was it like working with the Brat? How did you find the Brat?
Criss Cross found the Brat, actually, and they called me. They was on tour. They called me and they was like, yo, it's this girl in Chicago. You need to check out. I was really, really on the male side. Like, man, I ain't really rocking with no female rappers right now. Like, that's not something I wanted to do, especially after Criss Cross. I had so much success with Criss Cross. I wasn't really thinking about female rappers, and I was paying attention to the level that female rappers was going to, and I was just like, yeah, this is going to be a difficult one for me. I'm not going to be able to pull this one off. Like, female rappers, only Salt and Pepper, they was the only people out here selling records, and I'm just like, I don't know how to do that. That's what I was telling myself. And Chris, they just was persistent, like, yo, you got to check her out. And I was like, all right, I'm going to check her out based on y'all. They put on the phone. Next thing I know, I'm telling her to come to Atlanta. And when she came to Atlanta, I picked her up in my car, and her aggressiveness and the way she acted, it just was like different than any female rapper that I had ever really come in, contact with. I hadn't come in contact with too many, but she just didn't act like the ones that I had seen prior. And, from that point on, I was just like, you really rap. So I'm going to try to figure out a way to make sure that that's all that matters with you, that people understand that you're a female that really, really get out here and get down with these lyrics. And that's where she was at with it. And that was like the hardest project out of any project that I've ever put out for me to get right. Really, like, it took 2 years for me and Brat to get that connection that y'all see. It took us really, like, in the studio every damn day for 2 years. I'll make a single on her, and I'll be like, I think this it. And then I'll play it again in my car, and I'm like, that ain't it. And I'll throw it away, and I'll go back, and I just keep trying to work. So it was a long process.
She was pretty much doing a man's job. She was pretty much, because if you think about that time when she came out, it was like B.I.G., all the guys was killing, and she was standing up there with the big boys.
Yeah,
putting
100%.
out smashes.
Yeah, it was tough though.
And let me tell you something. Speaking of the competitiveness of hip hop, over all these years, I'm jumping around because you said something. You were the king of Atlanta for such a long time. Like, you pretty much are the blueprint between hip hop and R&B. I mean, of course, you had L.A. Reid and Babyface, right? But when it comes to that hip hop, it's you. Over the years, while all these other Atlanta artists started heating up, the Futures, the T.I.s, the this, the that, did they ever look to knock you out the way? Or did they always just embrace you like, yo, you the OG, you the blueprint, Not saying T.I., Future, whatever, just up and coming rappers in the ATL.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I was in T.I. first video, and then me and T.I. actually, he says this publicly that he got mad at me because I didn't put him on the Welcome to Atlanta remix. So a lot of rappers from Atlanta got mad at me because they thought I should have made an Atlanta version. And now that I think about it, I should have made an Atlanta version of the song and put all more Atlanta rappers on there. But I was just trying to think. I was thinking about how crazy it was for people in other cities to sing my song, right? And I'm like, how New Yorkers gonna be in the club saying "Welcome to Atlanta"? They probably ain't gonna fuck with it. So I gotta make the song have some more legs. So I'm like, let me just do a city-to-city version so that when it get to that part in the city, everybody in a different city can play the record. I was just thinking about the longer legs of my song.
Yeah, you know, let's mention this because I mention it to you all the time, but I don't say it out there. I was at Big Pun's funeral, and you know, we was all sad. And you know, Puerto Ricans, they usually don't play no music. They don't celebrate. And Wyclef walks in. Big Beast walked in with you. Shout out to my brother Big Beast. And Wyclef walks in with a guitar and a speaker, and he don't say nothing to nobody. He never even said nothing to me. And you just walked in, you plugged it in, and next thing you know, you started playing the and then next thing you know, the guys came in there, G&B, and they started singing Maria, Maria.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a West Side Story. And I was just like, everybody was in there with just crying so hard.
Yeah.
What is it about you, Wyclef? You driving up to the funeral. What are you thinking, bringing the guitar? How did you come up with that? Because, by the way, it's never been duplicated. It's a moment like that, and I've been to a lot of funerals. I've never been at no shit like that where somebody pulled out the guitar. And what made you even think about that?
Well, I think in history, we got to celebrate great men. And when we read the books and we go back in history, it's bigger than just a funeral. It's like Cuba, it's Puerto Rico, it's Haiti. You know, it's Latin America. Like, so when I walk in there, it's like I'm not representing just us, but representing a man that was your partner, which the same thing that I did for Haiti, that's what y'all did for the Latin community. So for me, when history looks back and we've seen like wars and situations, and we see how they honor the soldiers, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it was for me like another soldier falling, and the way that I can honor him is to show up with my instrument and pay homage.
That was crazy. I'm not sure if your father, rest in peace, passed away before Pun or after Pun.
After Pun. Yeah.
It was around the same time, and I had showed up to Jersey.
Yeah.
You know, and that was pretty crazy. You know, your father was a pastor, right?
Yeah, my father was a minister. Like, I'm straight up a church boy. So I came from Haiti. I was raised in Brooklyn, Marlboro Project. So I always say my father's first church was in the projects. And at the time, right, it's like early 80s. So Marlboro Projects was ran by the Italians at the time. You know what I mean? So imagine a minister coming from Haiti, like I'm about to start a church in here. You know what I mean? So it always showed me like the real gangster was always my pops. You know what I'm saying to you? So we went from Marlboro Projects to Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn. And you know, the thing is, I'm gonna say something on your show that I never talk about because I don't glorify it, right? So
yeah, I want to hear it because you know we call this a Joprah moment.
I think probably what they never heard before is that Wyclef Jean and Haitian Jack, Wyclef Jean, Haitian Jack are real cousins.
So y'all real cousins and y'all grew up, he was in the same projects as you, Wyclef, and all that?
Well, it's so important that people understand, like in the store when we say Haitian Sicilians, right? The reason why in the store we say Haitian Sicilians is because, say you come from Sicily, like the little town that you come from, usually it's your father and then your father's cousin and your cousin's cousins. So at the end of the day, when you come to America, it's the same thing. So even if they come 6 years ahead of you, you know what I mean? When you get there, it's the same system. But my father was like, at the end of the day, we going to New Jersey, you know what I mean? So he literally was like taking the church over and saying, we're gonna go to New Jersey. We end up in Newark, New Jersey, car theft capital of the world. Once again, one project to the next one. And for me, you know, one time I remember a few years ago, the feds picked me up for something. And when they picked me up for something, they had a big circle. In the circle, they had HS. And then, so they talking to me, and then I go, what the fuck is HS? You know what I'm saying? And then they go, Haitian Sinatra. Like your whole life is nothing but gangsters around you, and you over here singing New York, New York, New York. You know, so for me, I always believe the reason why I rep my flag is because for the youth, it's so important that when we've got so many that's deported, that's been locked up, that are not coming out no more, that they understand that the lifestyle that we want to glorify is not a lifestyle if we want to be the baddest. Because even if we talk about Macazone, I have to tell you, a lot of us felt more like we were political prisoners. Because we was watching in other communities, kids do 30 times more than what we were doing. And we were the ones that was deported. We are the ones that fight for prison reform. So for me, at the end of the day, what I did was wanted to use my art form to just focus as an immigrant and to show kids like you literally could do this the right way. You know what I mean? Like you could go from negative to positive and it's all right, you know?
Yo, Wyclef, let me ask you something. Years ago, everybody was saying Wyclef going for president of Haiti. Was you seriously going for president of Haiti? And what stopped you if you didn't go for president of Haiti and you didn't win?
Well, definitely thank you for this question. It's probably one of the most important questions in my life. I was serious because Malcolm X was serious. Marcus Garvey was serious. Martin Luther King was serious. Haiti is the first Black republic of 1804. So I don't think that we are created on this planet to sing, dance, eat food, have a good time, and then disappear. So for me, when I look at like Marcus Garvey and what he did, I felt like I'm chosen for a bigger purpose. If I come from this tiny village, like in the statistics, you don't make it out, what am I gonna do? So for me, when the earthquake hit, I ran. And this is why I ran, because I feel like the situation of Haiti, one of the things that we have to understand is how do trade policies work? So we constantly talk about, yo, you know, we want Haiti to come back. Well, how is Haiti gonna get back if the farming economy is crippled? How is Haiti gonna get back if you say you want to bring education to Haiti, but a kid is 13 years old already? What kind of education are you gonna bring him? So I was talking about bringing agribanks for credit. I was talking about building the farmer union and literally starting again from the beginning. You know what I mean? So what took me out of the race is, I'm not gonna lie to you, if I gave the order, I probably wouldn't be here because I would have had millions of kids die. But it's not about me, it was about the people of Haiti. So the way that they took me out of the race was illegal. Because at the end of the day, they said I had to live in a country for 5 years, but that's the propaganda they spread to the West. So if I ask the West right now, do anybody know how Haitian law works? Y'all be like, no. But they said you got to be there for 5 years. But we know how the U.S. Constitution works. And let me tell you how the Haitian Constitution works. I had a diplomatic passport. So I felt that the powers that be took me out illegally, but I left the country, came back, and I supported Michel Martelly, who became the president. And then after that, his successor, Jovenel Moïse, who's the president now, you know?
So you Jermaine Dupri, you started out breakdancing on the Fresh Fest. You growing up in music, you putting out artists, everything's bubbling up, welcome to Atlanta. But the next thing I hear is Jermaine Dupri's girlfriend is Janet Jackson. And nah, this ain't no scandalous show or nothing like that.
Yeah,
But I want to tell you that I was like, holy shit, wow. Like fucking wow. Right? Because you know Michael Jackson, you don't see him Neverland, Janet, Penny from the, like, how does a street kid from Atlanta, Jermaine Dupri, how do you even approach in the nicest way, hi, Miss Janet Jackson, I like you?
I had a stylist that was working for me that was actually Janet's stylist. You know, we all have jokes about different girls, any girl that you talk about, and it would be like, Janet, we have a joke about Janet. I say something slick about Janet, and then she'll say something back, like, I'm going to tell her. And I'm like, shit, tell her. You know what I'm saying? Like, please tell her. You know what I mean? So it was that. So that started. And then once you start that little, you know what I mean? You get past that era. And then it's like, okay, yo, where y'all going tonight? We going to a club. All right, I'm definitely coming to the club. I'm going to meet y'all at the club. You go meet the club. And from there, it just kept going and from one thing to the next.
So Mariah Carey is the biggest in the game. Then she kind of slowed up, and then she got with you. And that's that album that was like that 10 million plus album. Like, what was it like? Did you know that if you produced Magic for her, that shit would take off like that again? Because she wasn't as hot.
Nah, you never, as a producer, you don't never know that, man. You just be trying to just like, I made Always Be My Baby, which was on a record that sold more records than Emancipation. I think that album probably did like 20 million. So this was a song that, like, one of L.A. Reid's favorite records, right? So when they was working on Emancipation of Me, they was doing songs, but he kept saying, you know, I don't feel like you have that Always Be My Baby record. And, you know, they weren't really trying to go in that lane. And then he was like, you know what, fuck it, you got to go down to Atlanta and see Jermaine. So he sent her to Atlanta. The first week that she came to Atlanta, we made It's Like That and Can I Get Your Number, right? So then they loved It's Like That. Like, oh, this it. Okay, we feel like we getting into that space. But he's like, that means you hit a little space. And this one of the genius things about LA, he knows when you get close, and he'll keep pushing you till you get to that space. And he told her she had to come back another week. And she came back that following week, and we did Shake It Off, and we did We Belong Together.
You coming up, who was your mentors? Who did you model yourself after? Because we call you the blueprint, but who did you look up to? Was it Quincy Jones?
Of course. Quincy Jones, Berry Gordy, Teddy Riley, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, L.A. and Babyface. And you know, what's crazy is I just wanted my name to be attached to those guys. I was like, if they ever say Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and Jermaine Dupri at the same time, I'm done. I don't have to say nothing else, right? And that's all I was trying to go for. And these guys, they the greatest, man. They the best. They the best to ever do it, and they can do it as many times as they want to.
Yeah, you know these guys, they just got to change the suit. You know what I'm saying? Like, every time I see them, they got the same suit. I know they rich as fuck. I paid them for about 20 different samples. I mean, they rich as hell, but they got to take the
the shit on what's the Jermaine Janet Jackson video when they had the hats like this and shit, the zoot suits. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, man, they got to take the shits off.
A lot of people don't know this. Like, I'm the reason why y'all know who Anthony Hamilton is. And it's crazy because today I told somebody, I was like, yo, I'm getting ready to record Anthony Hamilton. And he sent me a message back. He said, yo, this is one of the greatest voices of our lifetime. And I just thought about it like, damn, I signed somebody that people feel like is one of the greatest voices of our lifetime.
No question. He's on his tone, his everything. He's by himself. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like with it, like he's a go-to guy.
Yeah,
you know
100%. And
you got an all-star team. You know, LeBron played different from Kawhi. You know, Kobe played different from Mike or whatever. But you know what you getting when you throw him in there. With Anthony Hamilton, when you throw him in there, he's an all-star with his own lane. You know what he came to do.
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, like, I signed Anthony basically on demo. My dad actually, once again, my dad heard him. It was Grammy week. He called me. I had him come up to the Arista building, and I signed him right on the spot.
Man, that's beautiful, man. And you signed it. You know, that's what it's about to me, man. When you sign an artist that's legendary, I call them pillars of the community. You know, I don't like to just sign any other rapper for a cute song that they had one time. Like when I bring somebody to the game, I feel like they're gonna be around to test the time with longevity, not just a quick money grab. I want to make sure when I bring them in there, I could be like, yo, I discovered such and such. I discovered such and such. Shout out to my brother Slick Rick from the Bronx.
Slick Rick is amazing, man. But thank you.
Slick Rick different.
Yeah, he was. That's me. That's what I did. Like, I basically rap like Slick Rick. Like, I love his style, his storytelling. It's just so vivid. Like the way he be saying it, you really, you know what I mean? When he say, a whole bunch of kids, a whole bunch of Brooklyn boys took right in my throat. Like you could really.
It's right in my throat. It was the moment I did.
Yeah, you could really visualize getting robbed. Like if you go to the club and you have your jewelry on, you understand what I'm saying. You know when niggas is looking at you, and you know when that feeling.
Let me tell you about Slick Rick. Man, hold on. Let me tell you about Slick Rick. When I was young, I was 14 years old. I left my mother's house. My daughter's 14. She a little kid. I can't look at her and be like, yo, I cannot believe I was already hustling. I was already in the streets. But I was still scared. So even though in my age group, I was acting like the toughest guy in the world. So I used to sleep in this crackhead hotel. It's up by Fordham Road and Crotona Avenue. The motel is still there. So you pay them like $30, $40, you spend a night. And I would spend the night there. They was shooting dope. They was busting everybody's head open. The cops in all night. And I was actually acting tough, but I was scared. And the only thing that got me through that time was just listening to Slick Rick songs on my Walkman overnight and repeat. The album just kept going. The music kept going. And he got me through a real tough time. I was only 14 years old in the streets. So I love Slick Rick.